In the evolving landscape of artificial intelligence, one question increasingly stands out. Is it equitable? Although artificial intelligence, or AI, has a huge potential to transform education, public services, and employment, without equal access to technology, it will likely perpetuate existing biases, discrimination, and historical social inequalities. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Semeni Shekoye and I'm joined by my co-hosts Oriane Itangishaka and Ginny Niwa. Today we will discuss what AI gender bias is and why it is important to elevate women in the coding and design of AI. Hello ladies.
Hello.
Finally all the three of us are back here after different vacations.
Yes, that's good.
Much needed one, right?
Yes, definitely.
So let's get into it. AI and gender bias. Let's start by understanding what this gender bias is. And I can start by giving an example, let's say an artist who wants to write a novel or a short story would ask an AI to write about a doctor and a nurse. And the AI will automatically make the male a doctor and then the female a nurse. And it wouldn't even reverse it because that's how the machine is taught and understands what being a male and a female is. Or, female names will be associated with family, children, care, and a male will be associated with an advisor, a businessman, a salary, big salaries.
Yes.
And so, but for me, the most worrying part of this is when it comes to healthcare, for example. A woman might want to use an AI-powered system to diagnose an illness, for example, but she often will receive inaccurate answers because the AI does not understand what the symptoms might be like for a woman. They would understand what the symptoms would be like for a man. So this misunderstanding is what we call gender bias when it comes to AI. So what are your experiences like and what do you feel about that?
I love the way you're explaining it for us and for the viewers because it's very important to understand it's a very complex field that we've been entering slowly in for the past several years, and now at some point in the near future we're going to be deep into it. If we're going to be the ones programming AI to think and to do, we really need to be having these conversations now and make sure that, of course, as women, we play our own part in making sure that we are included and we are represented. So I appreciate this conversation and I definitely look forward to learning more about how we can make sure that there's no gender biases.
Yeah, we've seen it with the internet, how, certain words, certain job, everything is associated with a certain ethnicity and, it can work against, minorities and things like that. So like you said, at this point, we must anticipate. We must do everything for young girls even to be, encourage them to, enter technology. So yes, I totally, and we discovering also, and we're going to see in this show how those, bias comes,
Exactly, and we'll have experts joining us shortly to explain all this. And as we all said, as technology advances and artificial intelligence continues to make breakthrough advances that benefit humanity, there are also growing concerns that it mirrors societal patriarchal structures and it could worsen the digital divide. Currently, women make up only 22% of AI professionals globally, according to World Economic Forum, and only 13% of AI paper authors are women. This disparity not only magnifies gender imbalances, but also subjects women to fear about their economic security, personal safety, threat to healthcare, and more. On this week's edition of Our Voices, we will discuss the state of women in AI today, whether AI-powered services lack diverse gender perspectives, and how to ensure equitable digital future for all.
Well, a female technology expert in Zambia is defying the odds in a male-dominated industry. Sarah Luyele Njamu, a technology entrepreneur, is leading the conversation on the future of artificial intelligence, automation, and information security. Kathy Short reports from Lusaka, Zambia.
This is Sarah Luyele Njamu. She is one of the few women experts on artificial intelligence in Zambia, working as Chief Executive Officer for the software company CompuConnect Education. Although the use of AI in the country is relatively new, she says access to finance remains a barrier preventing women from entering the technology sector.
For some reason, people don't seem to have much belief that women are able to do big things. So once you approach, institutions, lending institutions, they turn us down. But we are saying we've got the skills, we've got the talent, and we are able to scale as we've been able to expand in several countries.
Njamu is also the initiator and host of the Future of AI in Africa Global Summit. The summit brings together experts from various African countries to discuss African technological solutions and challenges.
By harnessing the power of AI, we can drive efficiency, scalability, and tailored solutions that speak to our specific needs as the people of the continent. AI must be seen as a tool of empowerment, capable of bridging divides and fostering an inclusive future where everybody is able to participate meaningfully.
A recent Microsoft report estimates that AI could inject $1.5 trillion into the African economy by 2030. However, as of 2022, only 30% of the workforce in AI consists of women, according to the World Economic Forum. Njamu is trying to change that. She wants to see more women and girls' participation, but she says they face gender bias.
We want more girls to come into this space so that they can leverage themselves. But more than that, it's important for more women to be involved just so that we can bring a balanced perspective. As you know, bias is one of the big challenges that we face when it comes to the development of AI solutions.
The Zambia National Women's Lobby, a non-profit organization advocating for gender equality, is happy with Njamu's success. Gordon Nachibinga is its acting executive director. He says his organization would like to see more women and girls get involved in developing AI content across the African continent to achieve gender equality.
I think it's interesting, actually, to have women at the apex of artificial intelligence, and I believe that apart from being a model of other women that are aspiring to be in that space, I think she occupies an influential position to ensure that some of the issues that are affecting gender equality are addressed.
Zambian officials like Felix Mutati, the Minister of Technology and Science, think that AI can have a positive impact. Speaking at the opening of the Future of AI Global Summit in Lusaka in June, he said such technology has an untapped potential.
When we harness AI, it is bound to change the shape of our industry in an unprecedented manner. It will drive innovation and entrepreneurship exponentially. And indeed, it will create new opportunities yet to be imagined.
Experts say many women are needed in artificial intelligence to contribute towards economic development in Africa. Kathy Short, VOA News, Lusaka, Zambia.
Thank you, Kathy Short, for that report. Despite pockets of progress, women looking into tech careers continue to face challenges, including gender bias, lack of representation, and access to leadership opportunities. To better understand this perspective and also the barriers in access and use of AI, we invited Ommo Clark, founder and CEO of iBiz, a technology company that provides software development services. Born and raised in Nigeria, Ms. Clark uses her skills to promote digital inclusion. Ms. Clark, thank you for joining us from the state of Maryland here in the United States.
Thank you for having me.
So your organization mainly helps in digitizing sectors in Nigeria by developing applications and websites, right? So how are women evolving with this change, or would you say they are left behind?
Women are, so what we do in my company, we build systems, but we also offer digital training. And at the moment, I'm a researcher as well in AI. So women are historically, we've been behind, like in education and everything. So it also affects IT. So it's like a carryover. So when it comes to like in the digital space, we're still catching up. We weren't even there before AI came on board. So it's like playing catch up all the time. If you think in Nigeria, for example, 30% of the women are involved in tech, and we're trying to improve that. So we do a lot of digital training. Now we've got into IT, so it's really training people to gain those skills to be able to create IT or AI-enabled systems.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm thinking both on the continent and even in the diaspora, what are some of the challenges that's causing that divide or that delay in us as women catching up and entering into this field of maybe even programming, because it's going to affect us at some point? Is it because we don't see or think about the impact that AI has on our everyday life, or what's the challenge there?
I think when it comes to tech, typically, and even education, women have actually been on the back foot. So we didn't start on the same lane as men, to be honest. So it's playing catch up, in the digital space. And I think it's one of the things where IT, math, people think of IT and they think of math, they think of AI, they think of like, oh my gosh, this is difficult. So a lot of women are not really socialized to go into those things, or they were not historically, So that's why it's a catch-up game. We're still trying to catch up. It's worldwide, to be honest. It's globally, not just in Africa, not just in Nigeria. It's us trying to really bridge that gap. So it's a digital literacy thing. Now we can call it AI literacy thing. We are typically trying to catch up. So apart from like society, this gender bias we've talked about, with people thinking women are not capable, but there are also women that think they are not capable because they think it's so difficult. If I say to women, I work in AI or I work in data science, it's always like, oh my God, that's so difficult. So it's also the women need to change their mindset as well to know that we can do it. And I always say the landscape is changing. If you look at the landscape 10 years ago, it's different from the landscape today, and it will be different from the landscape in 10 years' time because more women are getting into it. In Nigeria, for example, you have all these programs to get girls into STEM, from a young age. Whereas if my mom's time, for example, my mom went to university in like the 70s. She knows nothing about AI. If I say to her, Mom, come and learn, she's like, hey, what is this? But in my generation, it's different. In my children's generation, it'll be even more different, So I think we're on the back foot, but maybe we need to accelerate, the learning and the catch-up process. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and we totally agree with the mind change. But also, how can we bring women up to speed, especially at advanced level of coding, machine learning, and even tech leadership level?
It's so, again, like the literacy thing is one thing. We need to encourage more women. We need to get women. So it's a multi-pronged approach, First of all, the gender, yes, we're women and we can do this, we're capable. And then the women to know that, oh my gosh, this is not difficult, There are many AI is huge. So when we talk about AI, it's always like, I don't know how people view AI. There's machine learning, there's deep learning, there's natural language processing, there's computer vision, robotics, so many areas you can actually get involved in and start creating applications that will be used in industry, different industries, so it's like letting people know you can do this, and then having role models. When you see people like you doing it, then it's easier for the young girls coming up today to know that, yes, I can do that, as opposed to like, oh, that is difficult, it's a man's job. So it's that reorientation of society to know that everybody can do it. It's an equal playing field, so
maybe before we wrap up together with what, in addition to what you are saying, what would you tell young girls who are watching you now, especially in Africa, to enter into the AI field? How would you encourage them?
First, I'll say to you, AI is not mathematics. So for everybody saying to me, oh, AI is math, it's so difficult. It is not. You can do it, you know what I mean? And there are many ways you can get involved in it. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you're going to solve one like difficult, like with coding, you're going to code this.
That's what I think, sometimes.
Yeah. And there are so many tools to help you with coding these days anyway. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, you are doing this hardcore coding thing. But there are so many aspects. Natural language processing is about language. When you use ChatGPT, it's like, translating what I'm saying now, into like a format that a machine can understand. So it's like, it's easy. We can do it. Look at us. And because young girls want to they want to look beautiful. I was going to say Barbie dolls, they want to look beautiful. It's like, you can also be fashionable and be in IT. You don't have to be one geeky kind of looking person. And you're thinking about so you can do it with role models and literacy.
That's a very good advice, and I'm sure those girls are listening to you. Thank you so much, Ommo Clark, founder of IBIS, for joining us, and we appreciate your contribution.
Thank you.
Ms. Clark joined us from the state of Maryland here in United States, and she's doing her PhD, and we appreciate, and it was a pleasure having her on Our Voices. It's now time for a quick break, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's now time for a quick break. Like you say, when we come back, we will further discuss challenges and opportunities of AI and how to overcome women's underrepresentation. Before we go, we also would like you to share with us what you feel about the use of AI and how it influences women's experience with technology. Share your thoughts on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, and our handle is at VOA Africa. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices. Today we are discussing women in artificial intelligence and how to ensure equitable digital future for all. Gender bias in AI starts with the algorithms development process, which is the training of data sets and the way certain words are encoded during machine learning. To understand how this process can potentially reflect bias and how to improve women representation, we invited Dr. Chinasa Okolo, a fellow with the Center for Technology Innovation in Governance Studies program at Brookings. Dr. Okolo also has a PhD in computer science from Cornell University, and her research mainly focuses on AI governance, AI literacy, and the future of data work, especially in African context. Dr. Okolo, it's really a pleasure to have you in our studio.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here.
Definitely. And as we have been saying, we find AI in our day-to-day life, be it in healthcare, education, employment. It's everywhere now. So the main concern is how these machines are learning and how these machines are imitating the patriarchal society. So help us understand this. How do we experience that, and where is this bias coming from?
Yeah, there's so many different areas of bias within AI or machine learning in general. When we think about fields such as healthcare, education, even the deployment of social services, this bias is especially persistent. And honestly, a lot of it comes from the existing bias within these societal structures overall. And so when we think about healthcare, for example, the majority of doctors are men, especially they are white men. And so, for example, let's say someone wants to, look at or generate images, from some kind of AI generation image tool, and they're going to mostly get images of men when they're searching for doctors. And if they're trying to get generate text, there are many cases where, the text would, refer to, like women as nurses versus men as doctors. In other cases, in the deployment of social services, if governments are using these technologies, there could be many issues when the AI systems don't understand that women can also be head of the household and also, play a significant role in caretaking. And so it's really important to understand how to address these biases and ensure that they don't affect and continue to exacerbate existing societal concerns.
Now, you deal with governance, and for me, that's really a hot button in terms of just regulating this AI situation. What is your concern when you think about governance and regulating AI?
Yeah, when it comes to governance, I think there are many people that are involved in this aspect. Obviously, governments themselves. I think that, the general public has a very big role to play in terms of understanding, how these governance processes when it comes to AI or other digital areas affect them, and then also how they can play a role in ensuring that these services or, these regulations, policies, et cetera, meet their respective needs.
So we're not going to allow AI to just take over. We're going to have we're going to slow it down.
Yeah, I think that's also a big issue because it's really hard to regulate AI because it's, ever changing, ever evolving. And so African governments, and also not to even just relegate it to Africa, the US government themselves doesn't necessarily have the respective technical capacity and also the skilled, regulators that have the respective skill sets needed to really deeply understand these technologies. And so we have to ensure that we have this expertise and can leverage it wisely.
So it's up to us to make sure we are there.
Most definitely.
Well, that being said, what are the most pressing issues that need to be addressed to bring more women into AI?
obviously, I would say the biggest issue is reforming education itself. Within Africa, particularly, boys tend to be prioritized in terms of who gets access to this respective education, and also in many cases, educators themselves may inherently or maybe implicitly or explicitly actually discourage women from pursuing STEM careers and also some of the hard and more technical topics, even from the primary education all the way to tertiary education. And so we really need to focus on encouraging women and girls particularly to pursue these fields, but also give them the support that they need to succeed and thrive as well.
Right. Yeah.
So, AI is here to stay. Technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So what would be the responsible way of building AI?
Yeah, this is also a very tough question. I think the most important part when you think about how to responsibly develop AI is to ensure that you understand the limitations of these technologies. Right now, or companies or just the world in general are really so engulfed or engrossed in trying to just use AI in any way that they don't understand that it has many limitations. For example, it's really hard for humans themselves to read emotions. And so trying to leverage AI for these very sensitive use cases like facial recognition, emotion recognition, honestly, they exacerbate existing issues, with pseudoscience, and it can even potentially be used in cases that harm people. For example, for like border processing and immigration issues. And the U.S. is already using some of these technologies, and also, refugee agencies that operate within Africa are using these technologies to track migrants, and these have very serious implications. Okay. And also, I think another responsible part of deploying and developing AI is to understand that the climate impacts and also the natural resource extraction or consumption is very serious. And so it takes so much energy to develop AI systems, and also as you use them, when you're prompting ChatGPT, you're prompting Google Gemini, it takes up so much energy. So we have to be very cautious because climate change is also impacting Africa in very disproportionate ways.
Briefly talk to us about jobs. We know that as we begin in the show talking about how it's limited jobs for women in AI. But how can we reverse that in terms of making sure that jobs are not just being lost, but also AI is not excluding women when it comes to gaining jobs in AI?
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's many different ways to get involved in AI. I think honestly a big barrier for many people is that they feel like they have to be, an engineer or have a PhD in AI or computer science, and this is honestly not needed. I think just because given the rise and introduction of ChatGPT, it's provided many ways, and also lowered the barrier to entry for understanding how to develop these tools. And so I think it's really important for African governments to provide resources and funding to train, but also provide funding for startups, who help drive innovation.
Thank you so much. We are running out of time, but thank you so much. It's good to have you in our studio and to see faces, African women faces, doing something in the AI. That's where we end our show for today. Our special thanks goes to Ommo Clark, founder and CEO of IBIS, and Dr. Chinasa Okolo, a fellow at Brookings Institute. It was a great pleasure having both of them. Be sure to watch our voices on the VOA website.